Good evening and welcome to the March Orange Audubon Educational Webinar. Tonight, we're going to talk about gardening for wildlife on your campus. This program is brought to you on behalf of the Orange Audubon Society, and our mission is to promote public understanding of and interest in wildlife and the environment that supports it. Spending time outside is valuable. Research shows the value of creating outdoor learning spaces on campus. So here's some evidence to bring back to your campus if there's any hesitation in doing a project such as this. 20 to 40 minutes outside connecting with nature lowers cortisol levels, and cortisol is a stress hormone. People who live with more birds are less likely to suffer from depression, anxiety, and stress. And numerous studies show connecting with nature lowers your heart rate, decreases adrenaline, reduces negative thoughts, and especially for school, increases concentration. So that little bit of time outside reaps great benefits. Getting outdoors to bird gives you vitamin C from sunshine. You get fresh air and you get exercise. Why create a bird or pollinator garden on your campus? Best practices for nature studies are that they occur in one location so that seasonal changes can be observed over time. Your students will get to know their patch, their local area, and it's accessible for all students. They don't have to go to a particular place. It'll be right there for them. Getting ready to plan your outdoor learning space. So first, think of habitat. Habitat is a place where an organism lives. It's made of 4 components. So we have food and water and shelter and space. So that's what you need in your habitat that you're creating. So create a habitat list to plan your outdoor space. So here's an example of one. And you can design this with the students. Think about what food is available for the wildlife that you're attracting, where there's cover or shelter, where there's water available, and adequate space. This is a great project to start with your students. Create a habitat map. You can even do it digitally, or students can make sketches of it and plan out where you're going to put these different components of habitat. So find a space on your campus that's accessible to students and has available water supplies. So several years ago, when I was in a portable, this was what was in front of my portable. And I got permission to create a bird and butterfly or pollinator garden. And so this is what it initially looked like. There was a few oak trees, native, and then there was a lot of non-native plants. So it took us some time to clear out the non-native plants, and we did most of the clearing and initial planting on a Saturday beautification day. And we did get some grants for plantings, and some families actually donated some plants as well. So that just gives you some idea of what you can do. And we used pine straw as a mulch after we did our initial planting. And we added native Florida plants throughout the year. So we didn't do everything all together. We did the clearing first and some planting. And this garden work was part of the monthly nature club that I sponsored. And the students really enjoyed doing this. We did set up some bird feeders with permission from the administration, and they were in the middle of the garden. And actually, those feeders were donated by one of our wild bird stores. And we put in a bird bath, and students weeded monthly to maintain the garden. And they took turns watering until the garden was established. And the bird bath, just so you know, was rinsed out every day to keep mosquitoes at bay. Several months later, this is what the garden looked like. And it just continued to improve along the way. We had unexpected visitors. And these would be things that students would see on their way to and from class. I made a station by the window for observing birds that students could go to when they were finished with their work. The learning space became a place where students could observe nature. And I did nature journals with them. And they were assigned prompts related to what we were studying. So if we were studying food webs, they would go out and observe different parts of the food web. And they would write about it in their journal. And I could send them out in small groups. And I had windows and I could just watch and observe and make sure they were on track. It worked out really well. They discussed the interesting things they found there. And the students really took pride in the space and no one disturbed it. I was so pleased that it stayed really good shape. Once you create a space for nature, you never know what will show up. You can get all kinds of exciting visitors like that grosbeak on the left and the cedar waxwing on the right, feeding on some of the plants there. Sometimes you have to make adjustments. No birds at this feeder because the red-shouldered hawk moved in, and that's just a learning experience as part of, the food chain. So you can make adjustments and you could stop feeding for a little while, and that hawk will eventually decide to go somewhere else. What about attracting pollinators? Here's some tips. You want to plant a variety of native wildflowers that bloom at different times of the year. In Florida, we're blessed with great weather year-round, so you could attract pollinators year-round, but different plants are going to bloom at different times. You want to plant these native plants in clumps rather than single plants so the pollinators can find them more easily. You want to avoid hybrid flowers, especially like those double blooms. They're not going to attract anything. They look pretty, but they're not going to attract anything. Eliminate the use of pesticides. When you spray pesticides, you're killing your native insects. Include larval host plants. This is a native milkweed that the Monarch caterpillar is on. Have an area of leaf litter for those pollinators that pupate underground. This is a hickory horn devil, which is a native caterpillar. It looks really scary and dangerous. It's not. And it actually pupates underground. So it needs leaf litter so it can crawl under there and pupate. If you want to attract hummingbirds, you need tubular flowers. Hummingbirds are attracted to red, but they will come to other colors. And this is a coral honeysuckle, which they love. They also love the firebush or firecracker bush, easy to grow. Provide a place for native bees. So research the native bees of the native plants required by the bees that live in your area. You want to go chemical free because, again, the bees are affected by the chemicals. So avoid synthetic pesticides, fertilizers, and herbicides. Use organic products and natural solutions such as using compost to enrich your soil instead of chemical fertilizers. Provide a low water source by filling a bird bath with large pebbles and fill halfway with water, and the bees can come, and some of the other pollinators too can come and drink the water that way. Provide bare ground for ground nesting bees, which most bees are. They're not colonial nesters, they're just single nesters, and a log or a snag for those that bore into wood. So why do we focus on native plants? Well, you don't need pesticides if you have native plants because there's a whole food web that goes with that native plant. And if you put the right plant in the right place, you only want to establish the plant. So if you put the right plant in the right place, you only need to water it once it's established, and it's good to go. In winter migration, berries and seeds will sustain the birds. So those are the adult birds or the juvenile birds, not the baby birds. And this is a great native plant. This is beautyberry. Dr. Doug Tallamy shows us a different concept about birds about birds, native plants, and caterpillars. So I highly recommend these books, Bringing Nature Home and Nature's Best Hope. And there's a website, bringingnatureHome.net, and it's a whole movement about creating habitat at your school and your yard and how that can help our native wildlife. Songbirds need caterpillars. This is a northern Parula. Butterfly caterpillars are not optimal for birds. They're not soft enough. So they're wonderful. We need our pollinators, but the birds, when they're feeding the nestlings, they need a different kind of caterpillar. They need the larva of small moths, which is Microlepidoptera. And they're not ones that you're going to notice very much, but the birds need those. Leaf damage is a good sign that your native insects are feeding on your plants. So we have to get away the mindset that everything has to look beautiful. It's okay to have part of your yard with the ornamental plants, but you definitely need places where these native insects can feed. Small caterpillars are easy for a warbler to pick out, and they're very tender, so the young nestlings can feed on them and put them down the gullet of a nestling. This is what the baby birds need, are these soft moth caterpillars. For chickadees to breed, your yard has to have 70% or more of native plants. Otherwise, they don't have enough caterpillars. And this was research of a grad student, Dr. Tallamy. Get rid of these kind of plants. Any plant that has waxy leaves, the caterpillars can't eat them. You know, they're like plastic to them. And here's some example: camellias and viburnums, Confederate jasmine. If you really love these, have just a small area and have devote more to the native plants. Oaks are the very best thing that you can put in your garden, even if you just can put one oak. Even the young oaks will support caterpillars. They support 534 species of caterpillars in North America. They're really, really important. To find out more about native plants in Florida, you want to go to the Florida Native Plant Society website. It will be very, very helpful to you. You can join the Native Plant Society. You can go, they have plant sales, especially in spring and fall. And you go on the website and you can find out when they are. You also can go to National Audubon's Plants for Birds effort, which is the website is up there. And when you go to this website, this is a wonderful website, great resource for finding plants. So what you do is once you go into this website, you're going to put your zip code in and click search. You're going to get this wonderful list of plants suitable for your location. So you can look at the colors, you can look at what birds does this particular plant attract, and it also will list if butterflies will come to it and other things. It'll tell you all the details you need to know. And then there's another little feature that I really love about this. It's on the next slide. You can find where to buy it locally. And you can also, some can be delivered to you through their native plant database. So great resource for you. So our next webinar is the City Nature Challenge in iNaturalist, and it is going to be April 12th. And that's a great project to get involved with your students, which is at the end of April, the project. So join us for that. And if you have any questions, you need any assistance in planning your native plant garden, pollinator garden, bird garden, however you want to work it, just reach out to me at education@orangeaudubonfl.org. And thank you so much for joining us. And this will be available on our Orange Audubon YouTube channel, and you can watch it and share it with others at your school. And good luck with your garden.
Kathy?
Hang on.